It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Larry Rips, CDC of Dental Laboratories Associate. He has passion and commitment for both the creative and technical aspects of the lab. Dental Laboratory Associates benefits from his 30 years of dedication to the precision craft of emerging dental lab technologies and absolute understanding of the importance of high customer service. Larry is currently a faculty member of the AAID Toronto TiMax implant course, the Toronto East Implant Continuum, and is the chair of a Spear Education Study Club that he also runs. His clinical understanding and treatment planning knowledge is his forte, being an integral part of his client's clinical dental team, and is always available with his knowledge and expertise to assist your chair side whenever needed. Larry's passion is helping clients and their patients so that their expectations when working with his laboratory is both stress-free and enjoyable. He is responsible for coordinating the treatment and case planning between his clients and lab, as well as assisting chairside whenever needed. Larry's passion and enthusiasm for what he does is contagious, but don't disturb him while he's watching his beloved Liverpool FC. What's the FC, man?
Football club.
Oh, football club. My gosh, there's no faster way to get in over your head than on a big implant case, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah. First of all, I have two partners in my lab, Alan David and David Kochberg, and the three of us, we've been doing this long enough. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. We try and avoid the bad and the ugly, but very often, if it's not planned correctly, the bad and the ugly appear way too often.
Oh, I mean, you see the cases posted on Dental Town. It's like, I mean, it's like when they placed the implants, like, did they have any idea how they were going to restore it?
Yeah, if you fail to plan, you got to plan to fail.
Nice. Nice. So what is some of the low-hanging fruit you could share with us today on how to do implant cases better, faster, more predictable?
It all comes down to planning. It all comes down to teamwork. It all comes down to making sure that the clinicians that you're working with, everybody's on the same page in the understanding of where we want to be at the end. What I always say when I meet dentists is it's not about me, it's not about the dentist, it's about the patient. And we always try and leave our egos at the door because especially I find with single practitioner clinicians, because they don't have too many people to bring into discussion sometimes on cases. They tend to dive into cases maybe too quickly or too on the spur of the moment and promise things to patients without actually doing a treatment plan. And the advantage of working with a laboratory, and it doesn't have to be I'm assuming any laboratory that has a certain amount of experience, is what we see in a month as far as cases go, most general practitioners may not see in a year or their entire careers. So that's the experience that we draw on, that we try and help our clients and their patients.
Well, I know you're a big educator. I know you're very passionate about dental education. What would you recommend for somebody listening to you right now in dental school, or they just been out of school a couple of years working for their mom?
Is don't be scared to ask the questions, okay? I always say people don't know what they don't know. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. If you have a lab, work with a lab that you trust. All too often, dentists, first of all, they never know who their lab is. They never get to meet their lab. They speak to a technician on the phone, and every time they speak to a technician, it's maybe a different technician. Get to know who your technicians are. If you can, try and work with the same technicians on an ongoing basis, whether you're in a small lab or a large lab, so you can build up a relationship with that technician. My clients, I would say 90% of my clients have my private cell number. Okay, why? Not because I want them to call me on a Saturday morning when I'm watching my Liverpool, but sometimes if you have a patient in the chair and you need an answer, you have to be available for your clients. So make sure that you team up with people that are going to be good for your business, and not with people that are going to save you and the cheapest denominator.
Yeah, and it's better if he's got FaceTime because then you can just FaceTime him, and it's
Yeah,
amazing how much you can see on
absolutely.
FaceTime.
Yeah, and we do that. We do that very often. Also, work with, from a lab side of point of view, we work with companies that we know are going to support us. I mean, I've had situations with implant companies where a dentist has called me. He says, Larry, I have a spinner. Patient's in the chair. I've flapped. I've got an implant spinning. What do I do? Well, who's your implant? What's the company? Get on the phone with the sales reps. They're not going to do that for you if you don't have a relationship with them. Sales rep gets in the car, drives a new implant to the dentist. 2 hours later, the implant's in. It's all about relationships, teamwork. To me, that is the biggest thing that I think is lacking in a lot of situations where everybody's looking for a quick fix. How quickly can I get it? How cheaply can I get it? And how little work do I need to do to get it?
Yeah, and I have a couple of rules for these young kids that if they don't do a case once a week, they're never going to get good at it. They're never going to master it. You wouldn't want to have a vasectomy done by somebody who only does once every 6 months. And the other thing is, it is my observation that everyone who's placing one a week has an intensely close relationship with another human from that implant company in their territory.
Absolutely.
And it's a matter of, if you want to buy it direct mail and save $40 and get it from Russia, it sounds like a good idea. But at the end of the day, those aren't the people that are crushing it in implantology.
Nope, I agree. And it's an ongoing fight to try and the problem. One of the problems that we see sometimes as well is young dentists, and this is in Canada I'm talking about. I'm sure it's probably a little different in the US, but young dentists graduate. And a lot of them, they want to be in their own practice as soon as possible. So they associate for a couple of years. They don't get the experience potentially that they should be getting. They go, they open their practice. They have these beautiful, stunning $1 million practices. And one of the first things they look to cut is, because it's one of the variables, is lab. So they go for the lowest. They look for the lowest possible price out there, not thinking that it's going to affect their practice down the road. Because one ill-fitting crown or one implant that goes south, one veneer that cracks, that is disastrous for a new practice. So that extra $40 that you're going to be paying for that veneer or that crown is going to come back in good stead. It's going to stand you in good stead. The other thing is that a lot of dentists don't realize, and they don't work into it, is we know what, when we're doing a crown, simple single crown, we know that our dentists are not going to need more than 15 minutes to insert that crown, okay, because we've gone through a series of checks and our quality control, etc. But if you're spending 30 minutes inserting a crown and you're doing 10 crowns a week, that's 150 minutes a week that you're wasting, okay? That's, you can put in 3 implants in that. There's another $3,000, $9,000 you could have generated by saving what, $400?
Yeah, I know. That's why bulk fill composites are going to take off so huge because, starting back in the day with all this layered incremental improvement, they took forever to make. And now the idea that you put some flow on the floor and then fill it with a bulk fill, time is money.
Yes, time is money, but quality is, I think, it takes precedence.
Yeah, but dentists don't want to hear that amalgams last twice as long. They don't want to hear that a full gold crown is the best restoration, and women don't want to wear gold crowns when they got gold on every single other part of their body while they're telling you they hate gold. And that's that's tough. So let's start at the beginning. What implant companies do you like?
We work with them all. As I said, Canada's a little different to the US because we're not as exposed to as many implant companies as the US are and as the rest of the world are. But I would say the main companies that we work with are Nobel Biocare, Straumann, Zimmer Biomet, BioHorizons. AAID Implants is making some real big inroads.
Which one?
AAID out of Israel.
Somebody text that? AAID Implants out of Israel?
ADIN.
ADIN. That's also where MIS is from, isn't it?
MIS is out of there. AB is out of there. There's a lot of implants coming out of Israel. So as far as implants, we work with them all. We have some preferences, but that's just, sometimes it comes down to relationships as well. But from the restorative side, from a lab's point of view, there's not a huge variance in what the restorative components are. All these implant companies make great components. So do we have a particular favorite? No, I'd get into trouble if I said that.
Channel conflict.
Yeah.
And that's real. I mean, specialists have it too with their referring doctors and companies and channel conflict stuff. But it seems like everybody's going to a premium and a value. Like Noble Biocare, they have, like Danaher, they own Noble Biocare, but they also own Implants Direct. Straumann bought the largest one, Neodent, out of Brazil. Do you like any of these value implants?
Yeah, I may get myself into some trouble here. I like Neodent.
Nice. That's my goal.
I've heard some really, really good things about Neodent. The fact that the prosthetic platform for all the implants is the same. They have the neo-arch workflow for their full arch cases. We don't deal much at all with Implant Direct. It is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine that these big implant companies have bought these other implant companies, and to me you're almost cannibalizing your own brand, because if I understand if Implant Direct were doing everything else but Nobel platforms, I'd understand that. I think Straumann also own Buttman Direct as well, which is also a third tier component company. So some of them are worthwhile, but it's not, 40 years ago, an implant, you had to be a little bit more careful. I think today, a lot of the implants out there, even the value brand implants, they're very good. I mean, we do a lot of value brand, what would be called value brand implants. We don't have any problems with them. We don't hear of the doctors having any problems with them either.
Yeah, again,
service, though.
Yeah, it still comes down to relationship, because the best rep might be working for Straumann and or BioHorizon. I'd follow that passionate rep. It's the other thing they do is they set you up for a lot of local hands-on education.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they save you so much. The rep saves you so much money there, because instead of flying across the country and dropping $3,000 on a weekend course, he's drinking buddies with the periodontist and introduces you, and the next thing you know, you have a mentor.
And that's what we do. We do a lot of. And I tell my dentists, because I'm involved in a lot of continuing education with young dentists, I always say to them, when you start out placing implants, don't even look at the value brands. You have to stick with the big boys, Nobel, Straumann, Zimmer, BioHorizons, because when the crap's going to hit the fan, and at some point it's going to hit the fan, you're going to have somebody there that you can call up, that can be in your office in an hour or the next day, that is not in some different time zone or just on a computer link. So that's why I say to all these young dentists, you pay that extra money, you have to stick with the big brands.
CBCT, what's your recommendation?
I don't know enough about it as far as systems go.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the different systems to give an opinion.
Do you have them make better surgical guides for you than others?
Yep. No, not in. Most of our dentists are using the Siemens and the big brands from Cerac, the Sirona. I really don't know enough about the different CT scanning systems out there to make a comment.
And what percent of your dentists placing implants are surgical guided versus free-handed?
That's a good one. I would say about 20% are CBCT planned surgical guides. I'd say about 30% are just regular lab-made surgical guides. So maybe 50% use guides of some sort and 50% don't.
Are the half usually the millennials and the half that don't usually the old farts?
No, I think that depends on the case. So straightforward cases, I think the dentists that have a certain amount of experience, they're not going with guides. It's maybe the younger dentists that, and this comes with education, and I think they know how we feel about making sure that these cases are planned correctly. So because I'm involved with a lot of the younger dentists, they get it when I'm telling them that if you're planning anything in the aesthetic zone, let's make sure we do a guide, because we need to know where that implant is going to be so we can plan the prosthetics accordingly. I wouldn't say it's one particular group, but I think the younger dentists are more open to the technology.
So what percent of your lab clients are in the Toronto metro? I mean, do you have many clients outside of Toronto?
Yeah, I would say 75% are in the Toronto Metro GTA area. We have clients in Quebec, the province of Quebec. We have clients in British Columbia. We have clients in the Caribbean.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And what is this guided chrome you're talking about? You talk about guided chrome, guided smile.
Yeah. So guided chrome. I've been in this for 30 plus years. We've seen and we're a small lab, Howard. We're only, I'll give you a quick background on the lab. We're 10 people in total. Okay. We have 8 technicians. All of our technicians are RDTs, which is a registered dental technician. So it's similar to your CDT in the US. The main difference between a CDT and an RDT is, in Canada, in order to be an RDT, become an RDT, you have to be qualified in every aspect of dental technology. So implants, crown and bridge, dentures, castings, ceramics, everything. In the US, I think you can specialize in dentures or in crown and bridge and have your CDT in one specific area. So when we try and hire people, we try and hire qualified, highly educated, qualified, talented people. Could we hire people off the street and train them? Yes, a lot of labs do that. We try not to. Because if I'm going to be selling a premium product to a dentist who's going to be putting it in a patient's mouth, they need to have the confidence that the people working on their cases are actually qualified people. So,
but that whole education system was decimated 30 years ago. I mean, how many dental schools closed down their CDT, RDT programs in dental schools 3 decades ago?
We still have a couple. We still have our main ones going. So,
in Canada?
Yeah. So there's a couple of them all over the country for dental technology, and these are really, really good programs. These are all well-recognized educational institutions that run these. These are not private, or these are all well-recognized institutions. So that's sort of the background of our lab. And I was saying I've been doing this for 30 plus years. So we've seen technology starting from its infancy. My partner, Alan, was the very first person in Canada to do Procera when it came out, 25 years ago. The DICOM, everybody remembers the DICOM days. We were the very first laboratory in Canada doing CEREC in-lab. When we first got into CEREC in-lab, it was still in the 2D, the technology was still 2D in the software. When we got into it, I still remember I was at a dental show and somebody came up to me, another technician, and said to me, "What are you getting into this crap for? This is just a gimmick. It's, this CAD/CAM stuff is a gimmick." Well, a gimmick is, I would say, 75% of everything we do in the laboratory is now CAD/CAM. So you're getting back to the guided chrome. In 30 years, I have not seen or have not been as excited about a protocol or a way of doing something as I am with this guided chrome. And I'll just give you a bit of background. Guided chrome was developed by a gentleman called Jay Watson. Jay's an entrepreneur. He's a visionary. He's the developer of guided chrome. And if you ever get to meet Jay and you look at Jay, you can actually see the gears turning around in his head. He's always coming up with ways to improve it. Jay's not a dentist. He's not a technician. He has some engineering background, and this is his concept. He's the owner of Guided Chrome and the licensee, etc. What Guided Chrome is, it's a sequential way, it's a sequential series of guides that enables the practitioner, whether it's a dentist or a specialist, to deliver same-day prosthetics in a pre-planned, predictable way so that there are no surprises, and it's done with a series of guides, starting with a placement guide. Then we have a fixation guide that is pinned to the patient, and then each guide attaches to that base guide with precision attachments. Our guides are not plastic or print or plastic or resin guides. These guides are chromium cobalt guides. They're printed guides. Big problem with a lot of guides is that they flex. So you put a guide in the mouth, you're putting drills in there, and you get some flex. There is no flex on these guides whatsoever.
What's their website?
You can go to, there's Guided Smile Canada, but there's also Guided Chrome. It's going to be Guided Chrome Canada. I would forward them to Guided Chrome Canada. We have a partner laboratory in the US who handles the whole of the US. That's called Rowe Dental Laboratory. And in Canada, it's us. We're Guided Chrome. But we also work with. This is open to every laboratory in Canada. This is open to every dentist in Canada. We are happy to work with anybody. As far as the Guided Chrome goes, the number one most loved thing about Guided Chrome is that osteotomy guide. It is an open floating osteotomy guide. So most osteotomy guides, you put them in the patient, you start drilling, you are drilling blind. You cannot see your drills going in, you cannot see your implants going in, and irrigation is always a big problem. You've got your assistant there trying to inject saline into the osteotomy site. You've got to remove your drill from the osteotomy site so they can cool it down. With Guided Chrome, because essentially it's a floating guide, it's off the bone, you can see your drills going in, you can see your implants going in, and you can irrigate to your heart's content. We are visual people. I know dentists and surgeons are visual people. They don't like giving up control. And closed guides, you don't have the control and the vision that you need to have when placing these implants, especially on these complicated cases. Then also the Guided Smile, it's not. Dr. Brent Boyce is an oral surgeon out of Arizona. He's actually the KOL for Zimmer Biomet. And he lives here in Phoenix? In Arizona. I'm not sure exactly where.
Can you send me his website? What's his name?
Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Boyce, B-O-Y-C-E, or S-E. I'm not 100% sure if it's C-E or S-E. And he's the lead educator for Zimmer Biomet, and he's the dentist that has essentially helped Guided Smile set the clinical standards for treatment planning. So this is just not a lab or an engineering person that's come up with this. There's actual clinical and scientific people working on this to make this successful as well. Guided Chrome, there's a whole bunch of things involved in this Guided Chrome family. So Guided Chrome essentially is for full arch restoration, all on X. So there's Nobel has all on 4, BioHorizons has with an X. It'll come to me. Neodent have the NeoBridge, Straumann have their version. This can be used with all implant companies. We haven't reinvented how to do implant surgery. This is all based on sound surgical protocols that have been proven for years. What we have done is we've taken a wooden wheel and it's now a racing wheel. So this is essentially all on X surgery that I'm just trying to think a better way to put it, in which we deliver the final prosthetic with a level of precision that hasn't been seen before. There's no conversions. I'm sure you've been involved in all on four, all on X conversions, denture conversions. I never ever want to do a denture conversion again. And a typical denture conversion can take anywhere from 2 hours to 3 hours to complete a denture conversion. The way we've set it up is I'm done in 20 minutes. So we're all about trying to save time. I mean, you mentioned time is money. If you take a typical all on X protocol, whether it's all on 4, 5, or 6, the typical workflow from beginning to end, surgery and prosthetics, you're looking at about 17 to 19 hours of chair time. With this protocol, we've got that down to about 7 to 9 hours of total time. So we're potentially saving 10 hours plus of clinical time using guided chrome.
That's significant.
It's huge. The other part of the guided chrome family is they've developed something called the iJig. So typically what the iJig is, patients had their surgery done, they're wearing a prosthetic put in at the day of surgery. 3, 4, 5 months later, they go back to the doctor who placed the implants, and they want to start the prosthetics on the final. So previously, we would have to take out the provisional, place impression copings on, take impressions, do verification jigs, do bite registrations, do try-ins, do a reset, and go to final. So 5, 6, 7 appointments is the average for that. What the iJig allows us to do is the doctor removes the provisional prosthetic that the patient's been wearing for the last few months while they're healing. The occlusion has been adjusted. So this is the occlusion the patient has now been adjusted to and is comfortable with. We remove it from the mouth. If you have an intraoral scanner, any of the intraoral scanners, Trios, Cerac, Itero, Carestream, it doesn't matter what scanner you use. You take the prosthetic, you hold it in your hand, you scan the intaglio surface where the abutments are, you flip it over, you scan the occlusal surface, you fill in any missing information, and you upload the file to us. The next appointment, the restoring doctor, he gets back what we call an iJig. The iJig is a printed or milled copy of exactly what the patient has been wearing for the past 6 months. It comes to the general dentist in sections. There's also a little bit of material that's been removed from the intaglio surface. The general dentist screws that into the mouth, lutes the sections together with luting resin. It's not critical on what resin they use, as long as it can hold everything together. They painted some tray adhesive onto the intaglio surface of this iJig, and they inject impression material to pick up the healed tissue position. They remove it, and they send that to the lab. If the patient is happy with the aesthetics, okay, we can theoretically go straight to final. So in 2 appointments, we can go from impression to final. If the patient is not happy with the prosthetics, or the doctor's not happy, what we would do is we would redo a digital setup, send them a printed try-in for the patient to have a look at, the dentist to have a look at, evaluate phonetics, aesthetics. If everything's fine, then we go to finish. So the iJig is a huge game changer as well, just from a time, productivity, cost point of view.
I wish you would go on Dental Town. We have 50 categories, and one of the most popular ones is laboratories, and they're always posting these questions, and dentists are always trying to answer each other's questions, but like some of this stuff, you need to be your side of the coin. Like this guy just posted today. The lab does not use Dicestone for crowns. They use Lavarock, which is apparently much better. I have never heard of this product and always taught Dicestone was a stone of choice for fabricating crowns. The lab does not mark the crown prep margins. This was an issue yesterday with a case where the margins were over trim. They will start marking the margins, but this is not something they typically do. It's really gone from pouring stones to CAD CAM. How much are you still pouring stone, or what percent First of all, how would you answer that guy's question?
First of all, I have no idea why they wouldn't mark margins. As far as the different dental stones and different resin reinforced dental stones that are out there, once again, it's make sure you know who you're buying from. All of the reputable companies make some fantastic products. But why they wouldn't mark margins, I'm not sure. I know in our laboratory we do 3 models. We still pour a fair amount of models. Crown and bridge, as far as printing models from crown and bridge, it is there. I haven't yet seen models that I'm happy with that are printed accurately enough for crown and bridge. But when we do a crown and bridge case, whether it's a single crown or a full roundhouse mouth, reconstruction, we're pouring 3 or 4 models. Every model gets trimmed. So we're pouring models that we work on. We pour models that we just check margins on, only margins. We pour models that we check only contacts on. So why they wouldn't, I'd have to look into it more, why they wouldn't mark the margins. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It seems like I'll never forget when a lot of labs were moving to China. And, back, 30 years ago. So I was over there lecturing, and I was talking to lab owners, and I said, why do you think it's all moving to China? Where most people were going to say, because they do it for, so much less labor. But he actually told me it was because the dental school in Hong Kong graduates twice as many dental lab technicians as it does dentists. So he had this wealth of infrastructure coming out of Hong Kong where he could hire some of the smartest people. And he said the only other place he ever saw that was Canada and Germany.
Yeah, and we are, I know in Canada we are quite blessed because we have a lot of really qualified technicians. There are not a lot of bad labs in Canada. There are maybe a lot of labs that don't have experience in certain genres of what we do, but well, especially in the area we are in the general Toronto area. We do have a lot of qualified technicians, but qualified technicians are expensive, and labor is very, very expensive. And if you want the best, you've got to pay for the best. As far as China goes, we haven't really been affected as much as the US has with offshore. Maybe more on the west coast of Canada, in Vancouver, I believe they have. But we're always of the mind that if you do something and you're doing it well, you don't really have to worry too much about what other people are doing. And that's what we try and do. We try and do what we do really well. I believe we do it really well. And maybe that's why it hasn't affected us. There's that expression, the race to the bottom. It's a race nobody wants to win. If you're going to win somebody on price, a client, you're going to lose them on price. Because if you win them on a $100 crown, when the lab down the road now decides to sell it for $90, that doctor you just got is going to just go to that lab for $90. So, you win them on price, you lose them on price.
Yeah, you should be on Dental Town. Some guy he just posted this morning, looking for lab for implant-supported maxillary case. I want someone to be talented, honest, and answer the phone. Digital scan and CBCT already done. Patient Presley has found, I think the best marketing strategy is just to do what you love and give a shit about the customer.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just old school. If you love what you're doing, you'll get really good at it. And if you actually give a crap about your customers, then it's a race to the top.
100%. And the clients that work with us, I think you've pretty summed up the clients that we work with. They may not be the fanciest dentists. They may not have the fanciest offices with all the bells and whistles, but they care a lot about what they put in their patients' mouths. And hopefully that comes a little bit from us having worked with them for, 10, 15, 20 years of some of our clients. I agree. If you care enough, it'll show. If you're passionate enough, it'll show. And I think that leads to success.
But how can you be passionate in dentistry if you're a Canadian and you watch hockey players knock each other's front teeth out all night long for sport?
It's a great marketing plan. So,
I love it. We got the Phoenix, the Arizona
yeah,
Coyotes, and during the games they'll pan the bench, and I mean, oh my gosh, it's just
I would.
everybody's missing half their incisors.
I still say the best idea is to go and open up a booth at a hockey rink and just hand out business cards.
So
I just wanted to mention something that's going on with the guided chrome. That's really really exciting. Right now, in beta testing is guided chrome zygoma. So this is a precision guide to place zygomatic implants. And right now it's in beta testing, and I'm sure a lot of people out there know Dr. Scott Gans. And Scott, together with Jay Watson, they're busy working on this project together that hopefully we're going to be launching, hopefully fairly soon. But these are the kind of things that we're able to offer together with this whole guided chrome system.
there's also we've had a couple of we've had him on the podcast.
Oh yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Mark Gantz, Scott Gantz,
Yeah.
Scott C. Gantz. Is that what it is?
SCOTTGANZ.
Okay, and but a couple of them are starting to revisit titanium, thinking this is a heavy metal, and there might be some inflammation going on with periimplantitis, and now you see all the big boys out there buying, whatever ceramic implant they can get their hands on. What's your view on that?
There have been some. I've read a few articles about inflammatory response to titanium and periimplantitis. I definitely think the ceramic implants. It's a growing market. We have a few doctors in our area that are placing ceramic implants. I'm not a lover of one-piece implants, and the ceramic implants are one piece. There is. The whole thing with zirconia and ceramic. So when you have to prep this ceramic zirconia implant, are you creating any microfractures into the implant? I know there's reports that say no, you're not, and there's reports that say yes, you are. They haven't been around that long. I'd like to give it a couple more years, see how they 3, 4, 5 years down the line. I think the incidence of problems that they're having with titanium implants is relatively minor. It still is the go-to material for dental implants. That's.
Did it surprise you that Zimmer is selling their dental division?
I just heard that this week. So I haven't even had time to look into it. Who was it that bought them?
No, they're just. I think they're just They're just putting the feelers out.
Yeah, I heard some. I'm not going to pass rumors on, but I heard something about it this week. Yeah. Zimmer's been through a lot of changes.
Yeah. Why did you say that with a giggle? What do you mean?
Well, originally it was the original.
3i.
Stereos. It was, I can't even remember all the names Zimmer went through. Dr. Gerald Nisnik was the original developer of the Zimmer implant. It's changed names a few times, and then they merged with 3i. It's a good product. We do a fair amount of Zimmer, we do a fair amount of 3i here. As long as it doesn't affect me or affect my clients and business carries on, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think they probably are just wanting to focus on their medical. I mean, they're number one in medical, and there's a lot of competition in dental, and there's people in dental that only do dental. So I imagine, it's like
someone will snap them up. Then another implant company will buy them out. Will buy them up.
Huh? Yeah, that'd be interesting. A lot of M&A activity. So what advice would you give the kids in dental school?
Is don't be in such a rush. Educate yourself. in dental school, you get a good basic education. Align yourself with a strong practice. Don't go into an associateship where there's not a lot of room for advancement. Look at the offices you're going to. Make sure there's technology in the offices, because you may be an associate in an office for 5 years. If they're still using amalgam and X-ray film, by the time you finish in that office 5 years down the line, you're going to be behind the eight ball. Align yourself with good people and educate. We're involved with the SPEAR education study clubs. We're going only into our second year of running one, and it was incredible. I mean, the doctors that we had coming in, we had a mix of young and experienced doctors as well. It looks like pretty much everybody's rejoined for next year. And these are the young doctors that I would like to go to, because I have 3 young doctors that they travel up to 2 hours to get to the study club. On a Thursday.
So cool.
Yeah. And these are the dentists that you want to get involved with, because you can see the passion, the commitment, and take advice from people around you. As I said, you don't know what you don't know. I'm learning every day. I do a lot of chairside. So I'm at an advantage, I think, over most technicians, because I get to see what dentists deal with. And it's not easy. Somebody summed it up really well for me a couple of weeks ago, is most people working in an office. I'm in an office. I have lots of space to work in. A dentist is the only profession in the world where your entire work area is the size of a coffee mug. Your whole day is concentrated on the inside of a coffee mug. That is stressful. So you have to pace yourselves. Don't be in such a rush to open your practice and to know everything. The money will come. And I think the new generation, and I understand the cost that they've gone through to get where they are. The cost of education is insane. It will come if you align yourselves with the right people. The rest will fall into place.
But back to cost. It seems like the schools. I mean, it was just a few years ago they were like $70,000 a year. Now they're at $100,000 a year. I mean, just
Yep.
5 years ago, it was routine to hear them coming out $300,000 debt. Now it's at $400,000, because the dental school, every time they raise the price $10,000, they have no decrease in qualified attendance applications. It's completely price inelastic, because they just want to buy a good job. And if your mom and dad are a dentist, and they want junior to follow them, and so they're just paying a lot of money for a job. But when they come out, what percent of your clients are still using traditional impression materials versus how many have bought expensive technologies like oral scanning?
In Canada, we're a lot more conservative than the US. I would say right now maybe 20% of our dentists are doing digital, and still 80% are doing traditional impressions. Is it growing? Absolutely. It's growing. Every few months we see a bump. There's probably not a week goes by when somebody's not asking me a question about scanners, intraoral scanners. What scanner should I buy? What system? I would still think it's 80% analog at the moment.
And what systems do you like working with? What oral scanners?
Me personally, I love the Trios from 3Shape. The CEREC Omnicam is really good. Those I would say are my 2 favorites. iTero is great as well. The one thing I like about the Trios and the CEREC is the almost live interaction we can have with the scanner. So I have clients that will scan a case, call me up and say, Larry, I have the patient in the chair, can you check the scan? So while the patient's in the chair, before they dismiss it, we'll check the scan saying, yeah, that looks great, or you know what, I cannot see this margin, or can you reduce a bit more here? And they do it while the patient's there. So instead of having to pour up an impression, we've got a drag, I can't read a margin, call the patient back, that live interaction is fantastic. As well as, we do a lot of digital diagnostics. And this is not directly related to scanning, but just related to digital technology. We do a lot of diagnostic wax-ups for large cases. So we're trying to move more and more of our dentists to digital diagnostic wax-ups, where we take a digital photograph. The doctor takes a series of digital photographs. We take the models of the patient. We merge all of that together inside our software, and we do a diagnostic wax-up based on the photograph, the articulated models. Then we have an online meeting with the doctor. Okay. At that online meeting, we look at that diagnostic wax-up digitally. We look at, are they happy with the length of the teeth? We look at the protrusive excursions. We look at the lateral protrusions. If they're happy, fine, we go ahead and we print models. If they're not happy, we make changes. There are huge advantages for digital technology. Another thing that we use a lot is smile simulation. When patients are going to be spending X amount on a case, diagnostic wax-ups are great. You show a patient a model before, and then you show them a model afterwards. When a patient's dropping $20,000, $30,000 on a case, they want to see what that is going to look like in their face. A model is great, but it doesn't give them any idea of how it's going to look like and what it's going to do to their face. So we're doing a lot of smile simulation, where we take a photograph, the doctor takes a photograph, and while the patient's there in the office, within 30 minutes, we can turn around the smile simulation and show the patient approximately what they're going to look like if they go ahead with the case. So for a nominal amount of money, they can get the simulation. They can take the printout home, show their loved ones, how's it going to look? Look at it. This wasn't available even 3 years ago. This is all helping the patient, and ultimately it's about the patient.
I love how you talk, but my problem with the dentist is that they think that's selling. And I don't want to sell, especially in the conservative places. Like you say Toronto is conservative. I mean, God, Kansas, Nebraska, North and South. That's redneck conservative, and they just start saying, "Well, I don't want to sell dentistry."
It's a business. Dentistry is a business. If you didn't, we're all in selling. No matter how you look at it, we're selling every minute of every day when we're working. You may not be an in-your-face, rah-rah-rah kind of hard sell person, but you're selling. When I speak to a lot of my clients, and patients as well, how often and for what period of time do they see the dentist when they go to the office? They're going for their regular recalls. They're in there for 40 minutes. They're with the hygienist most of the time. The dentist comes in, does a 3-4 minute check, make sure everything's fine. Do you have any problems? No. Nice to see you. See you next time. The hygienists are the ones that patients speak to a lot about things. This gap in my front teeth, that really bothers me. I'm getting food stuck in there. Is this gap widening? It's things like that. Those are queries from a patient to a hygienist. I think the staff also has to be trained in how to pick up on these things. Because if you're a hygienist or a treatment coordinator and you're speaking with a patient and the patient's incisal edges are chipped or the diastema is there, there's nothing wrong with saying to that patient, Mrs. Jones, that gap, is it getting bigger? Or, your teeth are all, you have chipped edges. Have you ever thought about fixing those up? You're not pushing anything in their face. You're just trying to maybe improve something that they've never thought of. And when these patients say, that gap is bothering me, or I've noticed I've got chipping on these teeth, if that hygienist or that treatment coordinator can say to the patient, you have 30 minutes and for, $25 or $50, we can show you what that's going to look like. Take it home, keep it. How many patients will come back the next appointment with that in their hand and say, you know what, that thing you gave me 6 months ago or a year ago, I'm ready to get it done now. So we may not be selling something right this minute, but we're always selling.
I noticed you did on the oral scanners. You didn't mention the closest one made to you, which is 3M's TrueDef in Minneapolis, St. Paul. How long does it take you to drive to Minneapolis from Toronto?
That's probably 10 hours, I would think.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't mention that. That was...
we don't see much of 3M around here at all. I'm mentioning scanners that I know I'm working with on a daily basis. Is it out there? I'm sure it is. I personally haven't received any 3M scans.
You know, it really looks like Trios is walking away with this market.
Yes, and my feeling behind it is the company itself are so involved in R&D, and they're always bringing out new things with their software. They have a huge team of R&D people behind them. I like it, and they now have the new wireless scanner. So to me that's a huge advantage. A wireless wand over something, that's a big advantage.
Well, I feel guilty about 3M because I had their CEO on, Mr. James D. Ingbrand, great guy, episode 933, and then they let him go like a week or two later. Did he retire? What happened? I just hope I don't hear that it was for something you said on Dentistry Uncensored, Brian. Crazy. Now I want to go all the way back to dental kindergarten. We know from our podcast, I always ask them, shoot me an email, howard@dentaltown.com. And about 25% are still in school, and the rest are pretty much all under 30. Their question is, what impression material do you use? What triple tray do you like? When do you need to go from a triple tray to full arch impressions? And when do you need a Facebook transfer?
Okay, great question. All the big companies, PVS, I still like it. Medium body, light body PVS material. Don't buy your impression material off the internet, okay? There's a lot of gray market things that may say name brand. They may have a name brand on it. A lot of it is not name brand. You may find these great deals. Be very careful. We had some incidents about 5-7 years ago where we had, I still remember it was 12 cases in a row from one of our very, very good clients. And 12 cases in a row came back to us. Didn't fit. Impression material looked exactly the same as he was always using. Turns out that somebody in his office was buying the impression material, saw this deal, looked exactly the same, bought this impression material, but it was a gray market knockoff impression material. So be careful when you buy impression material.
And another problem with gray market is you don't know that they're keeping it in the same temperature. Some of this stuff might be sitting, out on a ship for 6 weeks, crossing the equator. We actually have that problem in Phoenix. I mean, gosh darn, when the UPS truck pulls up to your office, it's 140 degrees in the back of that truck.
Yep. And we have the opposite here in the winter. There's certain products that we get told, order what you need, what you think you're going to need for the winter, because they don't ship certain products in the winter because of freezing. So the gray market, be careful. As far as triple trays and when to take what impression, and I don't mean to give a plug, but I like the clinical research triple trays, the one with a little metal band around it. I find those are the best triple trays to use. The plastic triple trays, we've pretty much trained all of our clinicians never to use a plastic triple tray. The occurrence of remakes on plastic triple trays is way too high. Our remake rate in our laboratory is maybe 1%, okay, which is, I think, well below the industry standard, or below the industry standard.
Which is 6%.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, the industry standard is 6%. That's what.
And it could be. We have very, very, very little remakes, but it's taken a while to get there. If a dentist sends us a plastic triple tray, we'll call them up and we'll explain, and we'll say to them, you know what, I'm going to get the sales rep from clinical research or this company, come to your office, try out their product. I think that makes a difference. As far as when to use triple trays, if you are using a triple tray, I'll make sure you can capture at least 2 teeth on either side of the abutment or the tooth that you're going to be prepping, or teeth that you're going to be prepping. Anything more than a 3-unit bridge at most you can use a triple tray. Once again, as long as you can pick up at least 2 teeth on either side of the triple tray. If you're doing a cuspid, a premolar, and you're using a triple tray, send us an alginate or a full arch of that case as well, because if we're in the aesthetic zone or close to the aesthetic zone, we always like to see what the opposing arch looks like from a morphology point of view, because with a triple tray, we only get 1 arch. We sometimes cannot see what's on the other arch. Cuspids, I'm not a lover of doing them on triple trays because it's sometimes difficult to ensure cuspid guidance, or if we need to get cuspid guidance. Quad trays, I'm not a lover of sectional trays at all. Half trays I don't like. It's very difficult to articulate them and to get them into a stable fixed occlusion. Posterior terminal teeth, not a lover of triple trays. So if you have a single terminal crown that you're doing, rather go to a full arch. Larger bridges, always full arch. And face bows is another pet peeve of ours. And I'll say this conservatively, but I think 75% of the face bows we get are not usable or are not done correctly. If a face bow is done correctly, yes, it's fantastic. If a face bow is not done correctly, a lot of the time we disregard it. We'll hand articulate it, okay? And we'll look at the wear facets on the case. We'll look at how the occlusion, how everything intercuspates, and we'll use a lot of that information to idealize the occlusion. But a face bow is always good to have in my opinion, when you're doing any cases where you have to ensure cuspid guidance, anterior protrusive guidance, things like that. But take a proper face bow.
Yeah, and gosh darn, these millennials, they love online CE. We put up over 400 courses, coming up on 1 million views. You should make an online CE course called Tricks, Nuts and Bolts, Tricks to Working with Your Lab.
I do, as I said, I do a fair amount of speaking here in the Toronto area for, a lot of the time it's for oral surgery groups or specialist groups to their referrals. For implant companies as well. And one of the things I talk about is tips and tricks in implant dentistry. Just little tidbits and things that we've picked up over the years that we've put together for that. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Can you email him and introduce him to Hogo? So I'm Howard Farran. So I'm Howard at dentaltown.com. The guy that does our online CE, he's a dentist in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, called Howard Goldstein. So his email is Hogo. So it's Hogo. Okay. One last thing about the study clubs. A lot of people, I've heard this consistent feedback for 30 years that when you have a study club and it's like 5 people, maybe 6, that they all open up and get intimate and share cases, mistakes, successes. But as soon as you're just at like 9 or 10 or 12, they all clam up and go into classroom mode. Have you noticed that too?
Absolutely. And, I'll get back to the Spear Study Club, because the Spear, from what my understanding of it is, they like to keep it to around 6 to 8 people in the Spear Study Club.
Exactly.
We have 17 people in our Spear Study Club. But and we've set it up in a way that we have an oral surgeon, we have a periodontist, we have a prosthodontist, and we have an orthodontist and myself on the sort of the advisory board of our study club. What I make a point of doing is I make a point of calling people out that, Dr. Jones, you haven't presented a case yet. Next meeting, you bringing a case. And then I'll be in contact with that doctor during the month and make sure that they have a case to come. I'll always have another doctor in reserve, just in case. But then we'll try and always get the oral surgeon or the perio, the prosto, to contact that person as well, so that we can work together. I'll say that. In fact, I'll go out on a limb and say 100% of the cases that have been presented at our study club by the participants, they've all left with some changes to their treatment plan that they never thought of. Okay, and that's what it's about. Because, they all, that was a great idea. Or somebody says, I had a case like that, this is what I did. Or a lot of the time is take a step back. Let's go back to diagnostics. Why is the patient in the situation in the first place? If we just restore him, he's going to end up back in that same situation. So I agree with you about study clubs getting to a point where people just clam up. But if you have somebody that's sort of calling people out and say, Dr. Jones, you've got to present next time, it seems to have worked really pretty well for us.
Well, I mean, dentists, physicians, engineers, they're a quiet bunch. Even lawyers. I mean, almost every lawyer you'll ever meet in your life doesn't litigate. And the thought would be no different than them singing, at an opera, or whatever. I mean, they just and only like 1% of lawyers do almost all the litigating, because that's that 1% where they're totally fine flying above the radar and just rolling stuff off the cuff.
Yeah. I agree. And did we have a little bit of attrition? Yeah, I think we've lost one or two people for next year's study club, but we have some more that want to join. And it's the ones that were quiet. Okay? Because if you're going to get something out of something, you're going to have to put something into it. And the ones that have put something into it, they're the ones that are staying. And those are the ones that are realizing the value to putting themselves in an uncomfortable, unusual position by presenting a case. Some of them have never, ever gotten up and spoken in front of a group.
Yeah. They always say it's the number one fear is public speaking, but I've never been to a funeral where they're all saying, well, at least he's not public speaking. Hey, last deal, you're born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yes, I am.
I've lectured there, done a lot of great podcasts there. How did you get from Johannesburg to Toronto?
I qualified way back in 1989, I think it was. I then decided, I had a feeling I wasn't going to live in South Africa. Not for any other reason than just wanted to go and adventure a bit. I backpacked Europe for about 6 months, visiting, working, staying all over Europe. Came back to South Africa, met who is now my wife. She had family in Toronto, and she wanted to leave South Africa because she just felt unsafe with the political situation at the time. And I said, hey, what the hell? I didn't come here for the climate, I promise you.
Oh, my God. You went from a gorgeous tropical beach to Antarctica.
I didn't come here for the climate.
And it's funny, we both have the same baseball stadium, and ours is because it's so damn hot that they have to close the roof and turn on these monster air conditioners, and you have to close it to turn on the heaters.
Right, exactly. I've been here this is my 25th winter here, I think, and I will never, ever get used to the winter. I hate it. I hate the winter. Beautiful country.
Little known fact about Phoenix is 10% of this town is Canadian.
Yeah, and I know why.
Yeah, and also I always know how the currency is trading, because when your dollar gets strong and ours gets weak, they come down here and buy up these $100,000 houses. Yeah. And my gosh, but hey, I hope you make that online CE course. That would be so amazing. It would teach so many people listen to those online classes from every country on earth. So you'd be educating people in Johannesburg, everywhere you backpack in Europe. And but hey, thank you for accepting the invitation to come on the show. It was really an honor that you came on the show today. I learned so much. and I hope you have a rocking hot day.
I appreciate it very much. As I said, I was flattered that I got the invitation. Yeah, and anything I can do to help our profession, I'd love to do it.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll get you in touch with Hogo. That'd be awesome. Have a great day.
Great, thank you. You too, thank you.
Hi, my name is Larry. I'm one of the owners of Dental Laboratory Associates. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to a very unique service that our laboratory is offering our clients. Our chairside assistance program enables us to come to your office to assist you with any case that you want us to assist you with, specifically for implants. Our focus is on large, complicated implant cases, and it's these cases that create and cause the most stress for dentists that don't usually do these cases on an ongoing basis. My partners and I have been involved in implant dentistry for well over 20 years. We also have been involved in educating dentists in implant restorations. It is that knowledge and expertise that we would like to bring chairside to help you help your patients. As a laboratory that has been involved in implant dentistry for so long, we have seen a multitude of cases. Generally what we see in a few months, most general practices don't get to see within a whole year. It is that level of expertise and experience that we would like to bring to help you and your patients. What the service involves is one of our RDTs, for the implants it would be mainly me, would come chairside to your office to assist you at every stage of the restoration process, thereby virtually eliminating any stress or any issues that may occur during the process. Our aim is to reduce your stress, to reduce your patient's stress, to make the whole experience more enjoyable for the patient.
Hi, I'm David Kochberg, one of the owners and operators of Dental Laboratory Associates. Welcome. Just wanted to give you a little bit of information about our laboratory. We are arguably one of the most technologically advanced laboratories in Canada. We have been doing digital dentistry for many, many years, probably from its inception. We have 100 years of combined experience throughout all of our technicians. Some of the things that really make us different are that all of our technicians are registered dental technologists. We do not hire people off the street and train them to make your dental restorations because we feel that just wouldn't be right. We have over 15 years of chairside clinical experience. We're able to come to your office and help you from the simplest implant case to the most complex. We're happy to meet with you for consultations. You're welcome to contact us at any time. Myself or any of my staff would be happy to speak to you at any time. Please call us.